Professor Schippers, may I ask you some questions?
Yes, of course. What do you want to know, Rico?
So with Follow the Science we want to explain certain phenomena in psychology. I'm Rico Brouwer, I'm a journalist, this is Michele Schippers, professor in behavioral science, who said let's talk about the prisoner's dilemma. Mm-hmm. All right. So how I would explain that is we're both in jail, we're both prisoners. Mm-hmm. We might both have done something wrong, but we can't talk to each other. If I rat you out, I might get off with a lighter sentence. Same applies to you. But if we both snitch on each other, we both end up with a long time sentence. If we both, even though we don't trust each other and we can't talk to each other, just say nothing, we would both get a lower sentence. That would be the prisoner's dilemma, mm-hmm. The way I understand it.
Yes, indeed. And the idea, the more broader psychological phenomenon is that do we cooperate or do we defect, basically? So if you defect in the sense that you choose for your own good, so if you do something that is counterintuitive, then both will profit. But if you do something and say, okay, I'm going to do something only for myself, then that's good for myself, then there's a chance that both of you get a higher sentence or don't profit at all. And you see that in society a lot. So people tend to choose for their own good. They can also, the prisoner's dilemma has been tried in many, many forms, like having to award each other money. So if I give you, if I have points and I can say, hey, we can share it equally, or I can take most of the money and make sure you get a little bit less. And there's even an option where I get less and you get even more less. I don't know how to say that.
It need not be about prisoners. The prisoner's
Exactly.
dilemma is to make a counterintuitive, not selfish choice,
Yes.
which appears to be in your own disadvantage, mm-hmm. but will turn out to be in your advantage.
Yes, if the other one makes...
If the other one does it too.
Exactly. And so that is what you see a lot. So for instance, I see a lot of people now that there's a huge narrative and people say, hey, I don't agree with this narrative that has been, governments have a lot of power and they say this is how you have to behave, this is how you live as a person. But there is a rather large group in society that says, hey, is that how we want to live as a people? But then you have to go against the tide, and that costs a lot of energy. And the problem is you will lose if you're the only one in society going against the tide. So for instance, as you know, I sometimes go against the tide, especially if I don't agree with it. So then I have to think to myself, okay, would I do this even if I'm the only one on earth who is doing it? And sometimes I even say yes to that. Would I do it if it cost me dearly? You have to make that decision as well. And sometimes people don't make these rational decisions, but I think it's good to really think about what can happen if I do that. Are there other people that want to join me in this, let's say, fight? Let's say I want to fight the tobacco industry and I'm not really happy with what they do with people's health. Are there other people who want to join me? Because alone is alone. And
I have talked to you previously off camera also, and that this is what you do. You make
yes.
you make it a rational decision. Would I still do this even if I were the only one?
Yes.
So that's looking into your own heart,
yes.
or your own moral compass.
Yes. Actually, I make this decision almost in a rational manner, but it is, of course, if I would be the only one, it is an irrational decision but it's a rational decision to be irrational, maybe.
So why are we talking about this for our Follow the Science channel? How is this relevant?
I think you see this, you have to make the decision a lot. So for instance, if you are at work and everybody is picking on one co-worker, the easiest way is to go along. It's like in kindergarten, right? Do I want to be friends with a bigger group or do I want to make sure that this one is not
and
being
most
picked
people
on?
will always go along with the group. That would be 70% of the people would go along. No?
Especially in the first instance, but the longer it takes, the more people think, is this what I want? Because even people who have picked on this one person in school, they usually regret it later on. Only, like, let's say, psychopaths or people, narcissists, don't really regret that because they don't have this empathy.
Okay.
Every day you can make, you can start anew every day. So if you think you made a mistake, then, but it's for people, it's really difficult to say to themselves, hey, I made a mistake and I want to make a different decision today. But I would always recommend to write a letter to the future. So what do I want the world, what is my legacy that I'm leaving for the world? So writing about the ideal world if there were no constraints versus what will the world look like if we go on like this. You can do that for the world, but also about your own life. What is my ideal life? And am I leading my ideal life? And are the choices that I'm making, do they fit this ideal life that I have in mind for myself? If yes, okay, make choices and do it. But if you say no, you can start over. We have all these stories of people who are converts that from one day to the other change and start making different decisions.
Yeah, I would always say, I encourage you to make a mistake. That's when you dare find new avenues.
Yes.
But it's stupid to repeat one.
I would say don't do it, but I have repeated and made many mistakes in my life, and I'm doing it every day, but life means making mistakes. But try not to repeat them. That's maybe the best advice I can give you.
Good so.